And with that, please join me in welcoming Willie Phillips. He's currently a partner at Holland Knight and is the immediate past chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So thank you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Hello, everybody. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Jack, for that introduction. Thank you for those words. You pretty much said most of what there is to say, but I'm going to add a little bit to what you said today. It's so good to be with everybody. Let me tell you this. I have a bit of a confession. I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with the future. And when you hear people talk about America's energy future, they often do start with electricity. And I think that they can be forgiven for that. That is a rightful place to start, as Jack said. But I want today to start the conversation somewhere else. I want to start the conversation with infrastructure. Now, America and in our region, we've never become more competitive, more economically competitive, because we built less energy infrastructure. Indeed, I will tell you that I submit that we are a nation of builders. You know, me and my friends from law school, I went to Howard for law school, like HU. You can always say that to get a line in DC, right? We have this thing that we say to each other. Anytime we talk, anytime we're on text or email, we always say, we end it with, do big things. Do big things. And that's what I believe America does. We do big things. We build big things. Think the Erie Canal, right? Think the transcontinental railroads. Think the interstate highway system. Each one of these visionary infrastructure projects, when they were built, and still to this day, they continue to shape the regional, the national, and the global economy. The reason why I'm going this long way and wind up to get started today is because I submit to you that we are at a similar inflection point when it comes to the electric grid here in this country, and in particular in this region. And I think we have an opportunity. Now, if you stop and you think for a minute about the energy policy discussions that we've been having here in Washington and around the region and around the country, there's been a shift. And you can feel the shift. You can feel it, and it goes back. It started back around 2021 with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And while that terrible, the human toll of that war is terrible, and it continues on today, the impact that that conflict had at the time on our energy policy, it was tremendous. Everybody was talking about it at the time. But it feels like a blip when you think about the conflict that's happening around the world today. When you think about what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, and all of the human toll that you have there, but it's impacting us here on the ground in the United States. And at the same time, our energy policy focus at home is changing. And Jack, you mentioned the headlines. We've seen it: artificial intelligence, data centers, electrification, still electric vehicles, the hopeful return of domestic manufacturing, advanced industrial manufacturing, quantum computing. All of these industries are having an impact on our electric grid, but they also have one thing in common, at least one thing in common. And that's that they all depend on reliable, abundant, and affordable electricity. But at the same time, we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of things we can talk about. We can talk about climate change. We can talk about the fact that our planning system takes too long. It still takes a decade or more to build a transmission line in this country. That's unacceptable. Interconnection queues around the country, they continue to grow, or at least they're not going down fast enough to keep pace. I mean, when you think about permitting something in this country right now, it can take years just to get something sited. When we know the demand that we have and we know what we need to do in order to meet the moment. And look, I want to give some credit to our local regulators, our state regulators, and to our federal regulators. It's not like they aren't doing whatever they can to try to speed up the process, to streamline permitting, to streamline our planning processes. I want to give them credit, and I hope that I was a part of trying to make that happen. But the truth of the matter is, we have a 21st century economy that we are having it rely on a planning process for a 20th century economy that just hasn't kept pace. And when you think about this gap in where we are and where we need to go, it reminds me of another point in history. And that point is back in the 1950s. We had President Dwight Eisenhower at the time, and he was facing something that should feel familiar to you today. He had a transportation system that did not keep up with his growing post-war economy. Now, they had roads. Roads existed, right? They were a thing, and they were building roads. But those roads were inconsistent. They were often dangerous. They simply were not what we needed for that modern economy at the time. So the president had a choice. He could just invest in what they were already doing and keep doing that, or he could do something visionary. And he decided that he would champion an interstate highway system. Now, it wasn't the popular thing at the time. At the time, folks told him, the states are never gonna go for this. They don't trust you, and they were more powerful then than they are today. Local communities, they feared the worst. Everybody said it's gonna cost too much, right? We hear that all the time. But now think about it for a second. Think about if we didn't have I-95 that you could jump on to go to New York, go all the way down to Miami. Think about what Eisenhower delivered to our country is one of the greatest energy and transportation infrastructure projects in modern history. And if the interstate highway system is the backbone of our American economy, and I believe since we are the global leader, it's a part of the global economy, then the electric grid is the nervous system for our economy. Some very wise person once said that the electric delivery system, that it is 7% of our economy, but it is the first 7% of our economy. You know, the lights went off at my home. I live in Navy Yard, very close to Capitol Hill. And our system is part of the old city. Tyler, you know this. Lindsay, you know this. It's underground. And my children are still kind of young. They're like preteens. And it dawned on me, I don't think they had ever experienced an outage in our home. And we've lived there for 17 years.
Can you say that again?
So you know what? You just keep it on the loop, Tyler, keep it on the loop. They had never experienced an outage. And I'm sure this was not your fault, right? This was construction or something like that. But it was so funny to watch them for only about an hour or so go around the house and flip switches that were turning on nothing. Because it is the most unexpected thing when the power does go out. That's how reliable our utilities are. That's what good job Pepco and Washington Gas and all of the utilities are doing around this region. So I say all that to say I think we're at a similar point when it comes to our electric grid, that we need leadership, we need a plan. If we're going to have this new AI economy, and it's so important to everything that we do here in the region and around the country, then I think we have to treat it as such. We have to treat it like it is a national asset and realize that it's not just electricity. We're also talking about national security. Now, I've had the privilege of serving as both a state and federal energy regulator. And today in private practice, I advise utility companies, stakeholders, technology companies all across the board on how to navigate that regulatory process. And here's what I know. From having looked at these issues from all sides, there's no one entity, no one organization that can solve all the challenges that we face in the energy system here in the region. There's no one utility, there's no one technology company, no one developer, and certainly no one regulator who can address all the challenges we have. But if we work together, perhaps regional collaboration is more important today than it has ever been when it comes to energy policy. And so, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. The grid doesn't care either. Right? When there's a reliability event, it pays no attention to our political and jurisdictional lines. It can jump right over the Maryland border and come right here to DC. When it comes to what Americans care about right now, what they care most about increasingly when you watch the news, people care that when they need power, that power is going to show up. And so the question we have to answer is, how do we do it? How do we do it? Okay. Let me leave you with this thought. I'm gonna answer it, but I'm gonna tell you, I think we can do it. I know that we can do it. I truly believe that we are at the most consequential moment of energy policy history in our lifetimes, okay? The decisions that we make today, they're going to impact the investment decisions that are made around this region. They're going to impact the economy that we have for decades. And how we do it is this. We don't need to focus as much as we do on every single policy discussion that we're having. 50 years from now, no one is going to remember the great line that you laid on your neighbor when you were talking about what President Trump did, okay? In 50 years, no one's gonna remember a single infrastructure project that you worked on, that you supported, and that you were proud of, and you rightfully so were proud of that. But in 50 years, no one's gonna remember that one thing that you did. In 50 years, no one's gonna remember what you were looking at and what was trending on Twitter when you were looking at your phone and not listening to Willie Phillips talk up here on the stage. What they will remember and what they will judge us by is whether or not we had the vision to not only plan an energy delivery system for ourselves, was to plan it for future generations. Now, I believe that we can do this, and I'll tell you why. I believe that we can because I think that our region is uniquely poised. It's uniquely poised to be successful because we have all the ingredients to be successful. When you think about it, we have outstanding utilities. We have fantastic businesses and business leaders. We have world-class universities. We have strong public institutions, political leadership. We have alignment on the fact of where we need to go. We have the Board of Trade that brings us all together in events like this. We have every single thing that we need, but we have to decide that the responsibility to deliver and to get over everything that divides us, that responsibility is each and every one of ours. We have to make it, everybody has to make that individual decision. And if you do that, I do believe that the future is not something that happens to us. It's something that we build. And I believe that we can do big things. And I believe it's time for us to get to work. I thank you so much for your time.